Hello everybody, my name is Kai, and welcome back to Warframe. I hope you're all doing well, because today we are taking a look at the long-awaited Khora Prime. Now Khora is the premier damage dealer in Warframe with her abilities through the use of her first one, Whipclaw. Alongside Whipclaw being one of the best damaging abilities or just things in the entire game, she also is one of the best looting frames because of her augment for her fourth ability, Pilfering Strangledome. And on top of all of that, her Whipclaw absolutely demolishes acolytes. Moving on to how Whipclaw functions, with absolutely no mods, it has a 25% crit chance with a 200% critical multiplier and 20% on status chance. The melee combo system does also affect Whipclaw's damage, which does mean that you will want to be building combo on whatever melee you are using to increase its damage, but subsequent hits with Whipclaw will keep this up, meaning you do not need to re-enter your melee weapon. But speaking of melee specifically, we get to the confusing part about Khora's Whipclaw. Khora's Whipclaw is an ability that is affected by a stat stick. Now if you're wondering what a stat stick is a melee weapon that enhances your Warframe's abilities indirectly, as in the stats on your melee weapon do not matter, only the mods you put on them. An easy way to explain it is sort of imagine as if you were modding the ability separately like you do with other frames that have exalted weapons like Baruch or Excalibur. If you're using a stat stick, you should not really be using it as a melee as itself, as the mods that you put on it are solely to boost the damage of your Warframe's ability, in this case being Whipclaw. In terms of actual mods that affect Whipclaw, there are aura mods like Steel Charge, base damage mods such as Prime Pressure Point, physical and elemental damage mods like ones that add Slash or in this case Toxin, critical damage and critical chance mods like Sacrificial Steel and Organ Shatter, status chance mods like Melee Prowess, mods that give you more combo duration, and mods that give you extra combo count chance, initial combo count mods, and 2 Acolyte mods, Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds. Mods that do not affect Whipclaw include Bane mods such as Smite Grenier or any other faction, attack speed mods, condition overload, status duration mods, lifesteal mods like Lifestrike, specific syndicate effect mods like something on the mirror, and range mods like Reach. You can use these mods on any melee weapon because the stats of the melee do not matter. The only time that you ever want to use a specific melee weapon is because of Riven disposition. Riven mods significantly increase Khora's damage, and even my mediocre Riven on my Magistar significantly boosts it, and that is because the Magistar has a 5 out of 5 on Riven disposition, which boosts the stats that my Riven gives this weapon, which means that weapons with a 5 out of 5 dispo are clearly the best for Khora. Currently, the best of these weapons are the Amphis and the Ankrios, as they have a 1.5 multiplier on the stats compared to all weapons under them. While other weapons may also have 5 out of 5s on their Riven disposition, the Amphis and the Ankrios offer slightly but noticeable buffs over the rest, so if you have a Riven for those weapons, they are the best. But because I'm showing a Rivenless build today, the stat stick we will be using for Khora is the Praetos. The build that we are going to use today is going to mainly revolve around critical chance and critical damage. We get some of our chance from Sacrificial Steel and Blood Rush, and since we are going to be obviously building combo with our stat stick, this is a must-need mod. Our critical damage also comes from Gladiator Might and Organ Shatter. Gladiator Might gives an extra bonus 120% critical chance because of its passive of the Gladiator set bonus. Prime Pressure Point also gives us that melee base damage, but this scales more nicely with a mod we will get to later, and we are going to be building for Corrosive on this build through the use of Primed Fever Strike and Shocking Touch. Now I like to use Corrosive over mainly focusing for Slash builds because again, Slash is a DOT, but it has a 1-second tick time. This Corrosive build is much better for killing Acolytes and also does not have to wait to deal damage. Obviously, Slash will scale a lot better, especially when paired with a Viral Primer, but for the main build today, we will not be using it, although I will definitely showcase the Slash one later. And finally, we are using Spoiled Strike here because its negative of 20% attack speed is not a bad thing here, but its plus 100% damage is very, very nice for Whipclaw. To build up the combo, I like to ensnare enemies with her second ability, Ensnare, and then you just melee. Build up to 12x and then start to hit enemies with your Whipclaw. And you'll notice that our Whipclaw is doing pretty decent damage against these gunners, but this is not nearly as far as Whipclaw can go, which introduces us to the core build today, but more specifically her augment, Accumulating Whipclaw. Accumulating Whipclaw grants your Whipclaw a 35% stacking damage bonus up to 350% when you hit 3 enemies that decays after 10 seconds. Now this bonus is very good because it affects the base damage of the ability itself, which means we can drop all strength on our core build as there are diminishing returns for modding for both ability strength and Accumulating Whipclaw. This means that we can run pretty much maximum range on our core build through the use of Overextended and Stretch, as it increases the explosion radius on Whipclaw, the pull radius of Ensnare, and also the pull radius that our Strangle Dome has. With a fully stacked and fully modded Whipclaw, you can one-shot these gunners with ease. Her second ability, Ensnare, groups up enemies after a short delay and makes them take double damage from Whipclaw. You can also refresh this ability without recasting by just hitting a Whipclaw on the originally Ensnare target again, pulling all new enemies in the area back in. Ensnare can also ensnare acolytes, rendering them essentially defenseless, and because of the double damage multiplier, makes them an absolute joke to kill. Our helmet ability for today is Parasitic Armor, which is unlocked from the helmet itself at rank 11, not from any frame. On cast, Parasitic Armor will take all of your shields and convert them to armor, while making it impossible to generate shields, except those made from Brief Respite or the Augur set. This provides Khora with practical immortality even up to level cap, as Whipclaw is your main source of damage on this build, and if you are spamming it while Parasitic Armor is active, you can never die since you always get that 1.3 second shield gate because of the regenerative shields. The current core build actually has 0 Augur mods on it, nor Brief Respite, so we outsource this to our pistol, which has Augur Pact and Augur Seeker, but you only need one of these mods for this build to work. This finally brings us to her fourth ability, Strangle Dome. Strangle Dome creates, well, a dome on cast that will pick up enemies with chains and have them be strung up, unable to do anything. But there is a lot more to Strangle Dome than just that. Starting off with the fact that all enemies that are strung up by Strangle Dome will take 200% damage from weapons and abilities, essentially just being a 2x damage multiplier. Whipclaw, however, does not benefit from this bonus, which is unfortunate, but that is because any time you hit an enemy that is strung up by Strangle Dome with Whipclaw, the damage will be redistributed to all enemies that are currently strung up, and that is a maximum of 26 that is not affected by mods. The dome also causes enemies to shoot at enemies that are strung up because they are given a higher threat level than ones who are not, which means that standing inside your dome provides an extra layer of survivability that is honestly not necessary, but does help. This brings me to the other half of today's video title, why is Khora such a great frame for looting, and that is because of her augment that makes enemies strung up by your dome have a 65% chance to drop more loot. Going over the rest of the build though, our aura mod is Steel Charge because this does affect Whipclaw's damage, and base damage is one of its most needed stats. We've already gone over why we have maximum range, or at least close, and very low strength because of accumulating Whipclaw. Prime Continuity offsets some of the negative that Fleeting Expertise provides alongside Constitution because we do want to have some duration so we don't need to be recasting Parasitic Armor all the time, and it also helps the propagation delay on Ensnare and our Strangle Dome lasting a little bit longer. Pilfering Strangle Dome you can swap out for another duration mod if you are going purely for a damaging core build. If you're not going to be using core to be able to 1, kill everything and also loot very fast, then you can drop this mod, in my opinion, for another duration mod. And finally, we have Fleeting Expertise because we are going to be spamming our Whipclaw a lot, and even with the high efficiency, it doesn't matter for our shield gate because of Parasitic Armor, so we can run pretty high efficiency to be able to spam this. We do use Energize though because we are going to also be casting our other abilities, and all of these in tandem paired with the 10 energy cost of Whipclaw does add up to be a decent amount, so Energize helps offset those energy gains. And finally we come to Arcane Fury. Arcane Fury states that on a critical hit you have a 60% chance for, at maximum rank, plus 180% melee damage from melee weapons, which does affect Whipclaw. Now, I am running a rank 0, which means that if you have a max rank Arcane Fury, your damage will be way better than mine, and as you can see, the damage in this video is absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, Arcane Fury, really good on Khora because you're critting more than 100% of the time. Variations on this build mainly focus on changing our stat stick from corrosive to slash through using Karnus Mandible and Buzzkill. Because the stats of the Whipclaw at base are spread evenly between Impunk Puncture and Slash, we want to increase our slash weighting. And then Weeping Wounds is here so that we get over a 100% status chance to make sure we are always proccing Slash pretty much all of the time. Now the Slash build on Whipclaw scales a lot better than Corrosive because Slash deals true damage which ignores enemy armor, but at lower levels you do need to wait for it to kill. Even if its damage is better than the Corrosive one, especially at higher levels paired with a Viral Primer or the Panzerhornpfeile, I just do not like to wait, and it can't really kill Acolytes. Khora's passive grants her an extra companion, that being her Kavat Venari, that is modded like literally any other companion in the game. Normally you can control Venari through the use of her third ability, but we can helmet over that for something much more useful and not lose Venari since it is her passive. And since Venari will always respawn unlike normal companions, you can use something like a Adarza Kavat for Cat's Eye, which gives you 60% flat critical chance for a buff, so even if it dies, you won't lose fetch. Or you could just do what everyone does and run a Panzer Volpaphyla. Focus school wise, I like to use Naramon for the perk Opening Slam, which gives you double combo count gain when you perform a slam as an operator, which puts you into your Warframe. This is nice because my Magistar, which has my Riven mod on it, has very, very low attack speed, so being able to gain very, very quickly is useful. All in all, this is why when I decided to really pick up Khora and invest in her and research about her to make this video, I was like, wow. You really have to understand why she is one of the best loot frames, one of the top damage frames, and just super fun to do because who doesn't love running around and just one-shotting everything with these huge red crit numbers that are in the hundreds of thousands, sometimes even breaking the millions if you have a good Riven for her. It's just fun. And like I said before, she makes absolute light work out of Acolytes. I almost killed Torment accidentally just because he was chained up to another target. So with all that being said, I just want to thank all of you guys for watching this one. I had a really great time making this video. It took me a little bit longer, but I hope that the improvement in quality is continuing to be noticeable in all my videos, and I appreciate all of you guys so much. Come join my Discord if you'd like to chat and hang out with me, as I love to talk with my viewers in there, link in the description below. But I hope this was informative and helped you, and I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!